Carolina Reaper, and I don't want that. So Sriracha. Ooh. I don't think that one was Sriracha.
Living life when
I don't think I got a Sriracha one.
Trying to find where we belong.
Oh. Oh, put me in the locker.
Mirror, mirror,
Start the video. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Got to look ahead now and leave it all behind me with all of your mind.
Not a bad imprint, honestly.
Take the fragments of your past and let them flow into the sands of
what do you
time. You'll be
She's a research
alright.
student at the University
You
of Country
must
Music.
believe.
She just said that.
If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that
So,
the
when did you
truth
come
will
here?
always lie with me.
Let me see. I guess it was about 3 days ago. What are you photographying? Photographying. Photographing.
Until that day,
My brain just like shorted out there for a second.
knew we'd be close for quite some time.
I don't know what just happened.
Yes, the heavens had a plan.
This is really like.
But I know of somebody who did a
Every day
Korok-a-thon?
making dreams happen, big or small. All these memories light a fire in me and keep the passion burning. There comes a time
Moon, welcome in.
when you'll have to
This is a
fight
robbery.
before you have to know that is in your life. That's when you realize it's up to you. So from now until the end, I'm gonna make all of my dreams come true. I will follow my heart.
I have $3. Here.
So we will find.
No Protheria? Nope. I'm gonna murder this frog instead.
Hands held high. We'll make things right. Just say the word and I'll be there. Yes, anytime and anywhere. The bond that we have forever strong. I am a friend you can count on. Never forget when we're apart. We are as one under the stars. It's
With
okay
all my fucking hydroponic. I swear to Christ.
to say goodbye.
Ghosty, are you in here? Come on, it's time to. Oh. Yes, actually. EMF 3 in the kitchen. Show us the low roll. The Groudon solo? The Groudon solo? 1v4?
With all your might, take the fragments of your past and let them flow into the sands of time. You'll be alright. You must
sorry.
believe. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that the truth will always lie with me. It's in my heart.
Exactly. Those were 5-digit numbers.
So come what
I don't know. I feel like still beyond the game.
I'll keep the faith until the
I never said that. You saw nothing.
I will follow my heart.
Bad.
It's in my
Nobody look at the playtime there. No, not one of you look at the playtime there. Her name was great, but that Tantal Day theme though, true.
Your flag, your alibi. Can you hide behind claiming might is right? Raise your fist to the sky while below
she's right there.
your boots. Common men die. Colors fly. Tell us who to love and who to hate. And by the by, will the memories of our morals fade? Stay true to your own convictions. In this haze, it's harder
You
to
just skipped away
do
behind the
the
pillar and
same.
disappeared.
So choose a color to live by.
fuck no.
You're going to hurt you. Give it all. Be the best, 'cause nothing less will do.
I tried to.
You can rule the world with colors flying high.
She's coming
You'll
right for
know
me.
that if you stay true, green or blue.
Nope, I'm out. No, fuck no. Fuck no. Nah.
With your colors flying high.
Everybody having a good time here. Oh, have a blast. Fantastic. Am I right? Fantastic. I don't know what to say about this.
Problematic, it's clear that we don't see eye to eye. We have to find a balance.
Nintendo, please. Nintendo, please.
Or we'll
Nintendo,
fall
please.
hard. Our colors rise. Tell us who to hate, who to adore. And as you try to sort out what you've been
I hate that when I hit, the mouse goes through it.
go and draw the line
Circle.
into the sand and show them all where you stand.
I can't pronounce. It's what, Worcestershire? There's like a
Hello.
Worcestershire.
Turn this down a little bit.
See, I told you. I can't do it that way.
Hello. How are we doing? That's still loud. This sounds so much louder than the last one. Turn that further down. That feels like it might be too low, but it's fine. Hi. How we doing? Happy, God, what day is today? What is This shit just does not want to cooperate with me today, huh? It just does not want to do the thing. Look at this. God damn. Spoiler, dodging beam. Pew! You're fine. Hi, Leaf. Cat, congratulations first. Anybody else who's out there hanging out, lurking about? Hope I have fun, but I don't want none of it. I don't... we are going to do story today, but I don't know how much story we're going to do today, actually, funnily enough. I do have a few things I want to do. I want to beat the Reaper, and it was something I went back and forth on, because apparently beating the Reaper in your first playthrough pretty heavily trivializes the final boss, because you become just over leveled as shit, which, like, you know, is true of most Persona games. But in this case, I was like, you know, maybe it would be fun to you know, take the final boss pretty, you know, legit, pretty serious. But then I go, I'm level 74 at the start of December. I'm already over leveled. Like my ass is already there. So fuck it. We ball. At this point, you know, what can I say? I think we just ball. So with that in mind, we have some priorities that I want to look into. If we're planning on beating the Reaper, you know, we might as well just go for it, say fuck it, and go crazy. Once we do, we have social links that we want to complete. I think my priorities as of right now are Mitsuru, Aigis, and weirdly enough, Memoru. Not because I care very heavily about his character, because I don't, but because I want to be able to fuse Hillel. If we're beating the Reaper in this playthrough, fusing Hillel would be real nice, because then if I fuse Hillel, I get access to Armageddon, which is the funny go bird delete button, which could be helpful to beat the Reaper again, or is I feel like probably pretty essential to Lizzie. So we'll be, you know, focused on a lot of that. What else? Unrelated, but you finished 438 in Masters in the GC. God damn, 10 points. You love to see it. Then any remaining social link time we have, I want to finish Bunkichi when possible, which should be pretty doable because I know there's a lot of time where you're out of school. And then I want to work on probably Chihiro and Yuko, or the other two that we're kind of close on, that we can hopefully finish. Those are kind of the priority ones. Maybe Kazushi as well. But we're definitely going to be leaving a lot of folks unfinished. So 07s to those fallen, to the BBs and the gourmet kings of the world. I'm so sorry for your loss, and we're not even gonna get into Kaisuke or the fucking what's his name, Hidetoshi. They're both that ship sailed long ago, so we're not really worried about that. So yes, the plan is to do that, and then I would expect we'll beat the game this week. What days we beat the game kind of remains up to question. We will also be doing Big Run this weekend, so probably not like Saturday, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. What else? The end of this month, it falls on a Wednesday, so I don't think we're gonna do it on that Wednesday. We're not gonna do it on the actual day, but maybe the following weekend. We are going to be celebrating 3 years on Twitch. I have a couple of things planned. I have a lot of things still not at all planned. And so if anyone has ideas of cool things that they're like, hey, this would be a sick idea, drop them in the Discord. There's a tab specifically for that. Because the idea will be, it's probably going to be a long stream. It'll probably be at, 12 plus kind of stream, as we've done for a lot of our anniversaries and milestones. Adventure to Canada blog. Ooh. Live streaming myself in the airport going to Canada, and then the entire flight on the on-flight Wi-Fi, just live stream myself sitting on the flight, then live stream myself getting to Canada, going to your house, and you know, then we go like explore Canada or whatever. I like the sound of that. It's got to be the whole experience. You can't just get one part, you know? You really got to capitalize and get the entire experience of going to Canada. I'm trying to think. Agree. Even if I went to Canada, I wouldn't see you, so unless you were to come up to Berta. So, I mean I suppose it's an option. I feel like there was something else I was gonna say, and now I just don't remember what it was. So, hi. Who wants to play some Persona? Who wants to, Christmas? Because it's almost Christmas. It's not. It's like November 29th, but, you know, that's like practically Christmas. So, let us... pause that. Switch here. Switch here. It'll be there in a second. There it is. So this is our funny little group of personas we have right now. We're again kind of over leveled, slightly. We have Norn, who's very strong, just hard click wind buttons. We have Loki, who I had to fuse for a Elizabeth request, so you know he's not anything crazy, but triple auto and single target boost with 4 element single targets is kind of fun. But I mostly want him for future fusions. Fuse him into stuff with like Spellmaster and the autos and whatnot. I think is pretty heat. Futsunushi's our new absolutely broken fucking carry. He has a whopping 82 strength, so he hits like a train. He has slash amp and crit rate amp and apt pupil. I'm probably going to give him crit rate boost at some point too, just to really, you know, make it go rather foolish, rather silly. Has Heat Riser and Bloody Charge. Bloody Charge, which raises your crit rate and doubles the damage of your next physical attack. And Severe Slash damage. So he's just quite strong. We have Sibylle, who is all light. Waiting on that Spellmaster. I think Spellmaster would be kind of heat for her. Also has some healing. We still have Alice, our dark... Alice is just she's fun. We love Alice. She's great. That 74 magic stat does a lot for us. We have Astarte, who is heavy crit gun damage or pierce damage, whatever you want to call it in this game. We have Scotty for ice. We have Suzaku, who's kind of a little bit bad, but it's our best fire that we've got, so you know we're gonna ball with that until we get a better fire. We have Daisoju, who is light as well, who's one we kind of don't really need anymore, but we're balling with. We have Kumhanda, who I don't use at all, but we you know have. And then we have Arahabaki, my boy, my goat. We're waiting for the 3 levels that we need to get Repel Strike so that we can never be hit again, because he is the MF who reflects physical, but also reflects dark and wind and resists ice and light. So Teehee, good luck hitting me. And then we have Barong for electric damage. So we have pretty good, pretty well balanced personas. We're kind of broken. Last time when we left off, we rescued some people from Tartarus, so now we're leaving.
Oh,
And yeah, we have a full moon in, I think, 2 days. So yippee!
So, in this section,
Oh, what a sublime heroine Murasaki no Ue is. She was written to be the ideal woman of the Heian period, the quintessential Heian beauty.
do you understand?
Speaking of Murasaki no Ue, here's a question for you, class. In the tale of Genji, Murasaki no Ue is portrayed as a woman of the highest class in terms of appearance, intelligence, and character. In the poem that Genji, the protagonist, sends to her, what did he compare her to? A cat. The cherry blossom, obviously. Who would say a cat? That's crazy. That's so foolish. It means that the image of you, as beautiful as the wild cherry blossom, will never leave my mind. How refined. Compared to them, you guys are nothing but... yeah, well, nothing but what? No, continue that sentence. Come on, Gramps. I'm worried about Ryoji-san, and it's even affecting my concentration. This is a grave situation. What should I do? Stop worrying. It seems like Aigis-san has been staring at me a lot lately. I hope she's not going to embarrass me again. What did you just say? Lighten up, I was just joking. What did he actually say? So many things happened during the school trip. People got all crazy and did things they wouldn't normally do. For example, peeking at girls in the hot springs. That wasn't you, was it? I was just joking. Okay. So we have no Mitsuru today because it's student council day. We have no Yuko. We have no Chihiro. Oh, we do have Mitsuru today. What the fuck? I didn't think she was usually available on student council days, but okay. That's the case. There's a place I wanted to stop by on the way back.
thank you.
Let's go. Thank you. It's over at the strip mall, so it shouldn't take long to get there. It piqued my interest a while ago, but I could never bring myself to go alone.
Interesting. So this takoyaki doesn't contain an entire octopus, but only a small portion.
Mitsuru, I want you to look at this takoyaki. I want you to look at the size of this takoyaki. And I want you to tell me how they are going to fit an entire octopus, a whole octopus, into a piece of takoyaki. Mitsuru, I need you to level with me for a second.
I mean, that does make sense. The entire creature would be far too large for a single person.
See, you're getting there. We're getting there.
Sometimes my own ignorance truly astounds me.
It's okay. It astounds me as well. She's rich, so she probably doesn't want me to try to treat her. Want to give it a try.
Seeing is believing, I suppose. Excuse me, one piece of takoyaki, please. What? Oh, they're only sold in multiples? How generous. So I'll receive an entire tray for this price.
Oh, girl. Oh, girl. Oh, honey.
So it's filled with diced octopus. Interesting.
Interesting.
There's a mild sourness combined with the chewy texture of the seafood. Quite flavorful. Are there other ingredients mixed in?
I love how, too, we have a character who is literally the gourmet king. And his whole thing is about how he's great at knowing all of the food and he eats a lot of food. And that is his entire character, pretty much. And yet at the same time, we go out with Mitsuru, and most, like, at least half of her link, I think, is us just going to try random fast foods because she's never had them before.
In any case, it's quite good. C'est très bon.
So
That
true.
reminds me, Akihiko once mentioned this place. Speaking of Akihiko, don't you think he's been acting differently lately?
A little bit.
Can't place my finger on it. I've known him for quite a long time. It feels like something's changed. Maybe he's just maturing.
Are you happy?
Of course I'm happy. With all that we've been through, it can be difficult to get over what's happened in the past. But Akihiko is using his experiences to make himself stronger. I'm quite impressed by that. When I look at Akihiko, I can't help but reflect upon my own life. It's the most peculiar feeling.
Oh. Maybe you're in love. Maybe you're anxious.
Anxious? You may be right. Maybe a part of me is panicking because I feel like I'm being left behind. Sorry, don't mind me.
Mitsuru seems to have a lot on her mind. I feel like our relationship is growing. Yippee! Rank 3.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
That's okay, I don't either.
Sorry to subject you to my thoughtless rambling. Just forget I said anything.
I'm rooting for you.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Don't worry about it.
That takoyaki was absolutely delicious. We should eat here again sometime.
Had to go back to the dorm.
Oh, welcome back.
Oh, hi Ryoji. How's it going?
You're late. Ryoji-kun was just leaving.
Oh, sorry, I was hanging out with Mitsuru. My bad.
Oh, hey there. Chilly out, huh? Hope you don't go catching a cold.
I'll do my best.
You know, I stop by here pretty often. Weird we never see each other.
Yeah, it's strange how you always seem to leave right as I get home. Is there something you're not telling me?
Well, I'm out of here.
That's very odd.
Later, Ryoji.
Oh, hi, Agus.
Was that Ryoji-san?
Yeah, he said he was going home.
Why was he here?
To see Junpei. They've been hanging out a lot ever since the school trip.
But the rules state that visitors aren't allowed here.
Yeah, but Kirijo-senpai said it's cool as long as no one stays late.
Oh, great.
I don't think we have anything to worry about. He is dangerous.
Not the front-facing Agus portrait again.
Dangerous? Ryoji-kun?
Come to think of it, he did hit on Mitsuru-senpai the first time he met her.
But having him around has really helped cheer you up, Junpei-kun.
Well, no point in dwelling on the past, right? Won't change a damn thing.
That's true.
Hmm? What's up, Ai-chan?
I'm fine. It's just... I envy you, Junpei. I'm a machine, so I don't understand what it feels like to live.
Oh, poor Agus.
Well, you don't seem that different.
In my case, it's more accurate to say that I'm operational as opposed to alive. There are times when I malfunction, but I can always be repaired.
Well, if we were all like you, then we never have to worry about dying.
Yippee!
Oh, crap! I don't have time to talk right now. I've got a mountain of homework.
That doesn't surprise me.
Serves me right for slacking. Well, no use whining.
Junpei studying on purpose? I guess hell finally froze over. Well,
About
that's
time,
all I
honestly.
have then.
We've been waiting for years.
The gift of life is not something I should
Now
possess.
what in the hell? 17 Murphs go by quick. Happy 17, ya goober.
Bree! Hello. Thank you for the 17 months. That's crazy. That's crazy. Where does the time go, truly? Honestly, wild. I agree. You, it feels like you showed up like yesterday, but also like right at the start. It's very strange how that works.
A weapon is much more difficult to operate when it's alive.
17 months ago, you were depressed as fuck in a dorm room, and now here we are. You love to see it. Hell yeah. Absolutely slaying.
That said, I believe I understand the concept of loss. Leader, the thought of something happening to you, it makes me...
Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I'm built different. I have that MF who reflects physical. I can't possibly go down.
You are very special to me. I can't explain why, but I never want to leave your side. I want to protect you at all costs, to be there for you always. I apologize for keeping you. You must be tired.
I'm always
So much
tired.
has happened in so little time. I'll return to my room as well. Good night.
Good night, I guess. How goes the reloading? Goes good.
Yoji Mochizuki. He is dangerous. What is this unsettling feeling? I am a machine. I can't die. So no one will have to grieve for me. I have to do something. I don't want to see them suffer anymore.
Now, I guess don't go doing nothing crazy. It's going good though. We're chilling. We just started, so he's a strange guy, but I think he's plenty polite and interesting. We can eat with Mitsuru. Hi, I guess. Ryuji-san is dangerous. I'm certain of it. Things are fine for now, but one day that will change. Please do not worry, though. I will be there to protect you. Don't worry, Koromaru-san. I won't do anything reckless. And Junpei and everybody else went back to their rooms. Okay. I think we're gonna head on to town then. Yeah, you guys are having like, you know, problems or whatever, but I'm just gonna go game. I'm gonna be a gamer real quick. What game is available today? Punch Boxer. Give me Futsunushi. Yippee! He's even stronger now. Hey, Mitsuru. Uh-huh. So true.
Hello, it's me. Sorry for calling so late. Now then, about the new arrival from the other day. I'd like to ask that you perform a full autopsy. If we find any distinctive features, we may be able to locate her family. Also, I can't help but think that the Kirijo group is connected to Strega in some way. Considering this, I think it would be disrespectful to sweep her death under the rug. And of course, I'll take full responsibility. What? What did you just say? Transmogrified? The body?
Oh.
But judging by the post-mortem, we were certain she was...
Oh.
All right. I'm sorry, but please keep this strictly confidential until we know more. If there are any other changes... Yes, absolutely. Right then.
Well, that ain't very good now, is it?
What is going on?
What is going on?
I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens for now.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, we'll be able to just wait and see. And surely in, you know, the next 2 days on December 1st, nothing will happen. I'm sure. Oh, sorry, December 2nd. Nothing will happen. Yeah, I got a message from Ryoji. Looks like he wasn't at school today. Maybe something urgent came up? Want to see you. Please come to the music room. Sorry for short notice, but I need to see you right now. Oh, well, okay. I should head to the music room. Okay. Ryoji-san didn't come to school today. I wonder what happened. Dude, I was looking forward to meeting some babes on that trip. But I guess things rarely go as you hope. Well, at least I got to see our school's girls and some yukatas. Yeah, man. Ryoji's absent today, man. Class seems so quiet without him. Never realized till now, but he's sort of presence that liven up a room. Okay. Let's go to the music room. That reminds me, Ryoji said he wanted me to come to the music room. Should I spend time after school with Ryoji? Yeah. Hey, bud. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for coming.
You not feeling well?
Oh, right. I was absent today. Well, that's not exactly it. It's just... How do I put this? I suddenly just got this feeling that I'm running out of time. And I felt like I had to see you. I had to talk to you.
Okay. What's up?
Sorry. I'm not even sure what I wanted to say to you. So, I guess for today, I'd like to say thanks.
I don't get it.
It hasn't been that long since we met, but I feel like I've learned so much by spending time with you. I just really wanted to thank you for that. You showed me around the school and the city. I got to hang out with you and the others.
I feel like you hung out with Junpei more than me, but, you know, I appreciate the sentiment.
I even got to go on a trip with you. That was a lot of fun. It's been a joy to experience and learn new things every day.
Oh, damn. Bro, it was 5th grade piano recital last time. Now he's fucking going crazy.
Just like this.
Can I join you?
That's an interesting suggestion. I'm sure it'd be wonderful if we could play together. But maybe we'll save that for another time.
Oh my gosh, Oopsie! How you doing? Merry Christmas.
When I saw those couples in Kyoto, or when I visited you guys at the dorm, I realized that's what it really means to build a connection with someone. It's that feeling of overcoming something together and keeping each other going.
Reverse Don, how you doing as well? Good to see you.
Both sides need to come to an understanding. That's how connections are built, right? I want you to know that you're important to me.
You're important to me too, bud.
I know I said I wanted us to be friends, but I actually want to be something more.
I know what you are, Ryoji Mochizuki. I know what you are.
What about you?
Let me say yes. Why am I not allowed to say yes? Pounding my fist on the table.
I don't really get it myself, but
Excuse me.
Oh, hi Fuka.
Oh, it's you. Sorry, I hope I didn't interrupt.
Maybe a little bit, but it's okay.
I was just passing through the hall, and I heard someone playing a beautiful song on the piano. So I thought I'd stop by to watch the performance. Who was the one playing? Was it you?
No, I wish. Not me. What?
Oh, I wanted to ask. It might have just been my imagination, but...
Bro jumped out the window. Bro said, I gotta get out of here.
I thought I sensed sensed Ryoji-kun's presence in this room. Were you not with him? Hmm?
Fuka and I left the music room and returned to the dorm. The melody Ryoji played on the piano remained fresh in my mind. All stats of the equipped persona have been raised by 1. Neat. As someone who also jumps out the window after confessing my feelings for someone, you get... You know, fair. Honestly, I feel like we've all been there at least once. Shoes of Bane. What's up, dude? Tomorrow's a full moon. Not that it means anything anymore, though. Man, there's nothing to do. I'm so bored. Maybe I'll go hang out with Ryoji. I didn't see him at school today, but he was probably just ditching, so he should be around. Oh, wait, crap. I don't know where he lives. Not the typo. Oh, no. It's okay. We know I'm over. It's all over from here. What are those shoes I got? Just do. Null Dark Insta-kill. Okay. Those would be decent on Ken, because he's weak to dark. Yeah, the ones he had now is Endure Dark. Oh, cool. Hey, bud.
By the way,
There's gonna be a full moon soon, isn't there? I know it's not much else we can do, but I can't help but feel a little bit restless. I guess I'll just have to deal with it.
Perhaps.
Ryoji asked Mitsuru out? I'm surprised he's still alive. Over this game blocking our love. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All the way back in, what was it? No, when did Portable come out? Like 2010, 2012, somewhere in that range. All the way back then, he even said that he was in love with us. And they wouldn't let us do it then. And they still won't. That's crazy. Feels kind of weird, huh? There's a full moon tomorrow, but nothing's happening. It's almost too quiet. Well, I guess am I the one having a stroke? I'm taking psychic damage from reading that. Well, that just goes to show we're back to our ordinary everyday lives. Just so true, Junpei. But for some reason I feel a little restless. Yukari, I guess. Anybody? Hello? Luka's not in her room. I guess doesn't seem to be in her room. Yukari doesn't seem to be in her room. Hello? Hello? Where is everybody? Did I just miss them? Am I crazy? Oh, Yukari's right there. Oh, I guess it's right there. Yeah, I did just miss them. I'm crazy. I swear that I will protect you, come what may. So, please do your best on your exams. Oh yeah, we have exams coming up. I forgot about that. I guess it's something akin to the idea that, as a machine, she is replaceable. You may have been programmed that way, but it's still painful to hear. What's up, Rennie? How are you? He's right here. Faromar is tilting his head. He doesn't seem to be in the mood for a walk. Okay, well, let me pet him then. No? Okay. He won't let me pet him because he's not in the mood. Doing great now that you've seen Koromaru. The most important part of the game, truly. Do I have a devil persona? I'll check every single menu until I find the right one. I do not. Cool. Go grab one. Get rid of Kumhanda.
Welcome to the Velvet.
Are you aware that the moon grows full? Yes. It's hard to not be. There's a big, like, countdown every day till the moon is full.
Please take a look.
It is hard to be unaware of that.
So you'll be summoning this very well. It's yours. Are you finished? We look.
And I can go to the police station and sell all my goodies. And then we'll go with Tanaka.
Now you're here.
It's a token of gratitude the missing salaryman left with us. You rescued him, right? I won't ask questions, just take it. Omega Drive. Cool. There's still more. They found that missing woman the other day. I tried questioning her, but her answers didn't make any sense. He said some kids saved her from an attack by a black thing. She left a reward with us, so I'll hand it over to you. Diamond.
Good to see you.
Ooh. 3 diamonds.
Wanna sell? All right, I'll take that. You finished?
Lady got rescued and left 3 diamonds with the police as a thank you letter. Like, damn, okay. What does that do? At pupil increases the user's crit rate. Okay. Ooh, we're almost up to 90 strength now. Whew. Can I make any equipment?
Welcome.
I heard the news. Furuja-san passed away.
Yes.
Well, we don't need to talk about that. So how can I help you today?
Which one? What would you like?
Gold, quartz, diamonds. Can't make either of those. Diamond and gold quartz. Oh my gosh.
What would you like?
Rune vest, light evasion high. Fairy cloak, reduce magic damage medium. Shift amp. Mysterious guitar. Proto butterfly, no light.
So, what would it be?
Survival trick, slash amp, pierce amp, light amp, dark amp.
What would you like?
Changes my affinity to light. Bow that brings about disaster. Changes affinity to dark. Fetching hero's comb. Null wind for Mitsuru. Okay, interesting.
Useful against the shadows. Give them a go, will you?
Reduce physical damage medium. Faster overheat recovery. That could be really good. Hell's Muffler. Eye of Wadjet.
I've got some good stuff in stock.
Rita Soda, Meggy Dolan, Tajik Attack Mirror, Soul Seed, Droplet, Silver Quartz, Black Quartz,
Go on, look around.
Regen 3, Invig 3, Growth 3, ooh, Revival Trick, Soul Shift, Soul Chain. Need diamonds.
It's been much more pleasant around here recently.
And rubies.
And on Port Island in particular. Everything good?
Cool.
Everything good. Hope to see you soon.
Let's skedaddle. And let's go with our everybody's favorite shady businessman. Ah, Kodak, perfect timing. You're not busy at the moment, are you? Because I've got one riveting life lesson for you. Entirely free of charge, might I add. Okay. Yes, yes, very good. That enthusiasm of yours is absolutely adorable. Alright, what shady activities have you been up to recently? Uh-huh.
Well, you notice anything different about me?
No. Sort of.
Ooh, so you can tell?
No. I'm lying to your face.
Revitalized. Doesn't it look healthier now?
Sure.
It's quite a hassle, but appearances are a big part of the job in my line of work. That said, I'm the total opposite at home. I dress like a slob and only shower every 3 days.
They're relatable, honestly. I mean, I shower more than every 3 days, but like, you know, that's a little excessive, but relatable, honestly.
Let me come up with an analogy. Vegetables. Perfect.
Right.
Imagine an organically grown cucumber that looks all deformed.
Uh-huh.
Compare that to a cucumber that looks perfect, but was grown using chemical fertilizers and pesticides.
Right.
Which one do you think the supermarket would rather stock?
The pretty one.
That's the simple truth. Awkwardly shaped cucumbers don't pack together very well, so stores prefer straight ones. Taste and safety aren't even a consideration. They'll carry cucumbers that even pests wouldn't eat.
I mean, yeah, I've been in a Kroger before.
Still buy these cucumbers when they know the truth? Simple. People trust what they see. The world is governed more by appearances than realities. That's why, as much as I hate spending money, I buy expensive ties to win people's trust.
Right. You say ties plural. I've never seen you wearing a tie that's not this one, but
Wait,
continue.
You know what I just said earlier? The part about me dressing like a slob and not showering every day. Don't you dare tell anyone. I can't afford to have people start believing I'm ordinary.
Right.
I only admitted it to you personally. No one else has a clue, okay?
Yeah, certainly not the several people wandering around us listening to this conversation. He only buys red ties, that's it. You know, that makes sense. He has a closet full of just really expensive red ties. President Tanaka's opening up to you. I understand him a little better now. Wow, yippee! Rank 7!
Just a reminder, do not tell a soul. If you break your promise,
Uh-huh.
I guess I can trust you. Run along now.
I suppose you can. I guess. After parting ways with President Tanaka, I decided to return to the dorm. Like those tech bros who want to optimize their lives by only having one outfit. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense to me.
Good morning.
Yeah, I guess I intend to do my best to protect everyone. Even if that means we're counting on you.
Yes.
Understood. This is ended for today. What's it? Mitsuru, Hidetoshi, Bunkichi. What's up, Junpei? Dude, I guess just flew out the door. And Ryoji didn't turn up today either. Weird, huh? Yeah, I'm sure that today being a full moon and both of them acting strangely when they've been kind of at odds with each other for a while, I'm sure that is probably nothing. Kirijo-senpai has cheered up a little, which is good, but I still feel awkward. I couldn't help her at all. Girl, please go talk to her once. I'm begging. Speaking of talking to Mitsuru. Hi, Mitsuru. I have to visit the library today to study up on business administration and management. If you aren't too busy, perhaps you could help me? Sure, let's go. Thanks, I appreciate it. That said, I'm certain I know where to find what I'm looking for. Shouldn't take up too much time. Truth be told, I'm asking you to come along was just an excuse. I hope we'll have some time to chat afterwards.
You know, there's not much time left for us to spend like this. In just a short while, we'll be looking back on these days with nostalgia.
What's next for you?
Well, since my father passed away, I've been faced with a number of complicated issues. My inheritance, the future of the Kirijo group, and the expectations of everyone involved with both.
Yeah, being the CEO of like the largest, you know, mega corporation in the country at 18 years old does seem like quite a bit of work, I won't lie.
It's possible I won't be going to college or starting a career. I may need to walk a different path. Say,
Uh-huh.
What does marriage mean to you?
It's all for love.
That's a straightforward answer. However, I'm a Kiricho. I can't let my feelings tug me around when making these decisions. An agreement between two parties, such as marriage, takes careful consideration.
Girl, I beg.
My parents' marriage was arranged for strategic reasons. But as time passed, they slowly grew to honestly love each other. I don't think they were unhappy with their lives. Love can take many different forms.
I don't actually know what happened to her mother, actually. I was about to be like, what because her father didn't seem terribly happy, but also, you know, he had good reason to not be terribly happy. And now he's dead. I don't know about her mother. I don't know what happened to her mother.
Am I wrong about this?
That's a tough one.
If I could speak with my father one last time, I would ask him directly.
I lent an ear to Mitsuru. I feel like our relationship has grown. Rank 4! Yippee!
Looks like we ended up staying until closing time. Talking in the library. I'm not setting a very good example as student council president.
Nah, you're fine. I don't think anyone's gonna be upset at you. Left the library and returned to the dorm.
Welcome back.
Hi, how was your day? There will be a full moon tonight, but we won't be conducting an operation. I was thinking I might summon Juno and search around a little just in case, though. Oh, by the way, have you seen Aigis? No, I haven't. Aigis has been coming home late recently. She didn't used to. Wonder if something happened. I hope she's okay. The game that has made us count down to every full moon, and now there's a full moon, and supposedly nothing's going to happen. Interesting. Aigis didn't like Ryoji-kun from the moment he met him. Do you think they just have clashing personalities or something? Something like that. Probably because he's always flirting. To be honest, I don't really like him that much either.
Oh, right.
There's a full moon tonight, so I'll be up keeping an eye on things with Juno, just in case. Let's go to Tartarus another night, okay? Junpei plants. My plants should be ready today, right? I think they were ready on the 2nd. The 3rd. All right, well, tomorrow my plants will be ready. Do we have any recordings? We haven't had a recording in a minute. Seems to be a new recording. 11/13/2009 at 1:05:20. It looks like a Mata's room. You get him, Ken. This is 1 in the morning. Why are you yelling?
This room really is too small to practice in. But come to think of it, I guess I don't have to practice in secret anymore. Although, I don't live on the 1st floor here, so I might be disturbing the people downstairs. I chose a long weapon so I could match the reach of an adult. But then I learned that long weapons are actually better suited for tall people.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, I hit my shin again. Jeez, I hope I get taller soon. Oh yeah, where'd my milk go?
He needs some milk. Burtis has a whole ass carton of milk sitting on his count. Ken, buddy. Not the whole milk carton sitting on your table. while you work out.
Maybe I should be drinking more milk.
Maybe you should not be leaving your milk out. Maybe that's the solution.
It hurts my stomach sometimes, though.
Probably because you've left it out. The recording ends here. Okay, great. There are no new recordings. Great. Thank you, Ken, for this enlightenment. What can I play? Edgar's House of Fortunes. Who do I want to raise the magic on? I'll do Norn. Play the fortune-telling game Edgar's House of Fortunes. If you're experiencing a mystical tarot card reading, it seems my spiritual power has increased. Well, anyways, now that I'm done gaming, I guess it's time for us to hit the dark hour, huh? Hi, Ryoji.
I've been looking for you. What are you doing here?
I kinda just ended up here somehow. It's so strange. The sky and the ground look all weird, and there's no one around. Something bad's happening right now. But for some reason, I feel at peace.
Have you forgotten?
What?
This is the dark hour. Ordinary people shouldn't be free to roam about. You've adapted to it somehow. Too well for a human.
Oh.
I finally understand. That's why I feel this way whenever you are around. You are dangerous. You are my enemy.
Your enemy? Enemy. That's right. It was on a night like this, with a full moon. It was a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yes, we've met once before. You and I were enemies.
Who am I? Who are you?
I am Aegis, the last of the anti-shadow suppression weapons. I was created to destroy shadows.
Created to destroy?
And you, your true name is Death. You are the shadow I sealed away 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Shadow. Yes, 10 years ago, on the night when I was born, I stood on this very bridge.
My sole purpose was to destroy shadows. That is the reason why I was given both a sense of self and a persona.
I am the bearer of the 13th Arcana. Everyone knew me as Death. But when I came into being, a part of my power was broken off and scattered. I wasn't at my full strength back then. I was incomplete.
Even so, your power was still far too great.
This cutscene is so good.
Since I was unable to defeat you, my only option was to seal you away. However, under the circumstances, there was only one suitable vessel. A human boy who had the misfortune of being nearby. I had no other choice.
Now I see. I was was inside of him all this time. And I unwittingly led him to discover my 12 missing pieces. And then... I get it. I understand now. I remember everything. I know exactly who and what I am.
Palladium!
Don't be foolish, I guess. You can't win. I'm even stronger than before.
The machine is created to serve a specific purpose. I will destroy you. That is my only reason for existing!
Well,
It doesn't have to be that way, I guess.
oh.
Sorry. I can't carry out my mission. I'm a machine that can't fulfill its purpose. I have no reason to exist. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry. I'm scared.
Juno! Did something happen? Yukari? What's the matter?
Well, I realize it's a full moon tonight. You did too, huh? Oh, God. I'm turning into a workaholic.
You know, I feel like it's reasonable at this point.
Wait, is something actually going on?
We're not certain of anything yet, but we can't find Igus.
What? Where could she have gone?
At one point, I was able to sense a persona, but I lost Igus right after that.
You sensed a persona? Could it have been Strega?
Well, she hasn't detected any of them, but we can't be positive.
I've pinpointed her location, the Moonlight Bridge.
All right, call the others. Let's see what's going on over there.
All right, squad.
Igus!
I'm sorry. I remember everything. I remember who I am, who he is. Leader, I know why I wanted to be by your side. I'm sorry. I failed.
It's gonna be okay.
I'm sorry.
You have no reason to apologize.
You?
Ryoji-kun? Wait, what are you doing here?
Igus!
Igus is no longer moving. She appears to have stopped functioning.
What is going on?
It's all my fault.
You did this?
Hold on, Akihiko. He's not showing any signs of aggression. Now tell us, who or what are you?
Turns out, I'm not so different from the creatures you call shadows.
You're a shadow?
I'm more than just an ordinary shadow. I'm the Appriser, born from the union of the 12 Arcana.
Yeah, ain't it weird how you just, you know, mysteriously showed up someday right after we had beaten all the other 12 shadows? It all comes together now.
The Appriser.
I remember everything now. The terrifying truth about the shadows and about me. I can't. It's all so hard to believe.
You know the truth about the shadows?
I do.
What?
The shadows are here to facilitate the rebirth of the maternal being. As for the Appriser, it draws the maternal being to it, allowing her to awaken.
And the Appriser. That's you?
That's right.
His maternal being. What is it?
She's on a level of her own. No words in our language can describe her. 10 years ago, a man collected hordes of shadows and contained them in a laboratory. That's where I was born. But the unification was interrupted, and I awoke before I was complete. After that, Aigis took me down, and I returned the favor.
Aigis? Is this for real, Ryoji?
She knew she couldn't destroy me completely, so out of desperation, she sealed me within a child who just happened to be nearby. That child grew up carrying me inside him, and by some twist of fate, he later made his way back here. He even transferred to your school.
Hey guys, how's it going?
A transfer student? You don't mean...
That's right. I've lived inside him for a long time.
Yeah, he was my friend. He would come visit me during full moons. He would tell me about how good of a job I was doing, or that something was gonna go wrong.
But how...
And when his persona awakened, the 12 shadows did as well. All in order to become one with me.
Ryoji, you're the Appriser? And you were inside of him?
Yes, that is what we have that is what we have gained from this information. Thank you.
How the hell do you expect us to just believe all that?
It's all my fault. I'm sorry, but there's more I need to tell you.
Ryoji-kun!
Seems he fell unconscious.
He's completely worn out. Let's let him rest for now. Aigis needs us too. We'll pick up where we left off after that.
What we've just heard is shocking. Ryoji lived inside me for 10 years, waiting to make contact with the 12 shadows. Then does that mean the boy named Pharos was actually Ryoji all along? So many questions remain unanswered. However, Ryoji is unconscious. We took Ryoji and Aigis home. The air surrounding us is frigid and somber.
He's awake now. Let's meet tonight on the 4th floor.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you then.
Damn you, Ryoji.
It looks like we're all here.
Are you okay, Ryoji-kun?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thanks. Besides, I have more to tell you guys.
Yeah, what's up?
Ryoji-kun.
Then allow me to jump right in. We have many questions that need answers, after all. Yesterday, you said the shadows were here to facilitate the rebirth of the maternal being. Tell us more about this. What happens if she returns?
The maternal being is called Nyx.
Yippee! Finally a name drop.
Nyx is the mother of shadows. In ancient times, she bestowed death upon this world. If she awakens, the world will be swallowed by darkness, and all life will perish.
All life?
Are you saying everyone will die?
Yeah, that's kind of bad, isn't it?
It'd be more accurate to say that we'll all surrender the will to live.
Wait, are you talking about the lost?
Everyone seems to have arrived at the same conclusion. Every single human being will become like the lost, leading to the extinction of mankind and the end of the world.
The fall.
But there's still a way to stop it from happening, right? What? Don't tell me there's nothing we can do.
I'm sorry.
Wait, why are you apologizing? Are you saying there's no way to stop it?
That's right.
Well,
you heard the bell. That's when it was all decided. I'm the Appriser. The Appriser of Death. The fact that I'm here at all proves the fall is coming.
The fall is coming.
Everyone is at a loss for words. It's inevitable. The entire human race will become members of the Lost. Ryoji's existence confirms the impending extinction of mankind.
What? When will it happen?
I don't think you'll live to see next spring.
That's barely any time at all. What are you guys freaking out about? Nick Schmicks, am I right? All we gotta do is win and we're golden.
Real, Junpei. Real. All we gotta do is kill her. Easy. What's up, Wyatt? How you doing? Good to see you.
And we haven't lost a single fight yet, have we?
Yeah, we ain't gonna lose this one either. Trust. Yeah, Junpei's right.
You can't win.
Nah. I'd win.
When you're up against Nyx, power doesn't mean a thing. It's like trying to fight the inevitable. Like death or the flow of time.
Doing good, ate dinner, and just got done doing dishes. Now you're cleaning? Hell yeah.
Nyx can't be defeated. She just can't.
Love me some of that post-nap productivity. I feel that.
What? This is bullshit!
This is all so sudden.
Everyone is visibly distraught.
I was born from a collection of shadows, but now I have a human form, so I can talk with you, laugh with you, cry with you. It's the gift I received for existing within him, and because of that, I can give you a choice.
A choice?
Nyx's arrival is unavoidable now, but you can choose to live in peace until she arrives. You just have to kill me. If the Appriser disappears, all recollection of the Dark Hour would go with me, and that would erase any memories of this hopeless reality. There'd be no way for you to remember anything. When the fall comes, it'll happen in an instant. You won't have to suffer at all.
We'll forget everything?
I'm saying you can go back to your normal lives, and by doing that, you might buy a little time and delay the fall too. Technically, I'm the same as Nyx, so I can't be killed. But thanks to him, there's a part of me that's become human. So if it's done by his hand, then it may be possible.
Ryoji-kun.
If you don't kill me, everything will stay just as it is. With no hope for salvation, you'll live every day paralyzed by the fear of your impending death.
Nah. I'll win.
And I don't want to put you through something like that.
I don't want to forget.
Exactly. I mean, forgetting all this would be like trying to hide from the truth.
Is that really such a bad thing? If you don't do this, all that awaits is despair greater than you can possibly imagine. You don't understand the terror of certain death. Don't make your decision without at least thinking about it first.
Why is this happening?
You don't have to decide right now. There's still some time. December 31st, New Year's Eve. You have until then to think about it. After that, I'll dissolve into the blackness of the Dark Hour and lose my physical form.
Ryoji.
When Nyx arrives, I'm going to disappear anyway. So please, don't worry about me. I'll be back when New Year's Eve rolls around.
Happy New Year! You gotta kill your friend. Or know that death is imminent.
Hey, Ryoji!
Yippee!
Stop, Junpei-kun! I felt Ryoji-kun's presence vanish just now. There's no point in chasing him. He's gone.
Ryoji-kun.
I guess he'll be back.
Ryoji's revelation was all too devastating. The world will soon perish. Mankind is destined for extinction. A difficult decision lies before me. Death is inevitable. The appraiser truly did deliver a death sentence to us all. I can't think clearly right now. How do you even choose the way you want to die? Come to think of it, the crops I planted on the rooftop should be ready to harvest now! Yippee! Anyway! Damn, that sucked. Anyway, let me go harvest my crops. Soul spinach, large soul spinach. An unavoidable end. Can't be happening. I won't accept it. Oh gee, that crazy bastard. He's gotta be out of his mind spewing all that crap out of nowhere. Such bullshit, man. I just don't get it.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I don't feel like talking right now. I've never truly thought about my own life ending. Feels like everything I thought I knew has been destroyed. So we're all gonna die. No matter how much we want to live, there's no escaping death. Everyone is going to die? What the hell? We're all just trying to live our lives the best we can. And now what? It's all just gonna end? You gotta be kidding me. Yeah. Well, that was real tragic. Anyways, I'm gonna go game. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna go hang out with a drunk man at a bar. Since the power growing within you stems from the bonds you forged and nurtured. Thank you.
How may I assist you?
Me,
Please.
summon a hour.
So you'll be summoning this. May it be your inner strength. Are you finished? We look. You don't have anything new at the shop. Cool. What's up, Mutatsu? Woo! Come on, booze! I want more booze. You took your sweet time getting here.
You're late. What kept you, huh?
Mutatsu stinks of alcohol more than he usually does. He must have been drinking a lot.
Don't you think it's rude to make someone wait? Didn't Dad tell you not to do that, huh?
I'm just gonna not say anything.
Ignoring me? Well, I guess I can't expect much from a kid of your generation. I thought you got in a drop dead somewhere. Something. Don't make me worry like that. Where the hell are you wandering around? It's late.
I was with a friend.
A friend, huh? Girl? It's a girl, ain't it? Even though you're still sponging off your parents? Well, like father, like son, I guess. You.
Hey, How's it going?
What the? All this time, I thought you were. Guess my eyesight is getting bad after all.
I think it is, yeah. Seems Mitatsu was worried about me. I feel like I understand Mitatsu a bit better now. Rank 8!
Spending all my time with clients, missing anniversaries, and birthdays. I wonder if they felt the same way I did. I was waiting for you earlier.
Who's they?
My wife and son. We were all together back when I was still a businessman. It's already been 4 years now since they left me. I used to stay out past midnight all the time. My wife and I would always fight about it. Now when I go home, I don't know what to do with myself. Oh, I just come here and drink every night.
Are you running away?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I shaved my head, but that was just for show. I get drunk to avoid facing my problems. Oh yeah, I guess you could say I'm running away. She hasn't contacted me since then. Must have gotten over me already. I have no idea where they are, or if they'd even want to see me. It's too much of a hassle. Alright, kid, enough of the depressing talk. Let's get out of here. I want to go home and take a shower.
Okay, man. Left the club with Mitatsu. You can hear people talking. I heard some people saying that apathy syndrome is nothing to worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard the same thing. They're saying it puts people at ease, right? You think it's some kind of new religion? I think I get what they mean, though.
What?
No way. Are you seriously falling for that? It's all a scam. First spell is wrong. Class is ended for the day. Greed is such a terrible sin. Alas, I cannot help but one. Now the number of requests I have for you has increased. Be incredibly pleased if you should spare the time to fulfill them. Sincerely yours forevermore, Elizabeth. Cool. Okay, so we have new requests. Let's first and foremost go to the faculty office. We can go with Mitsuru today as well. Mr. Hono seems to have stepped out. God damn. Oh, how is it already so late? Renato is not home today and I'm so lonely. Maybe I'll have dinner with Miss Toriumi. We could go to that restaurant with that interesting game. What was it called again? A mahjong parlor? Hope I don't lose again. But I don't think there's any way I could win against Miss Toriumi.
Hi.
Oh, hello. How are you? Miss Toriumi isn't here. I was actually about to look for her myself, actually. Hey, do you play mahjong? It's very interesting. In technical terms, in particular, are quite interesting. If I play too much, I can't stop thinking about them for days. Menten Pindoradora. Richi Ipatsu Chito Itsu Sumo. I've said that in my sleep. My poor darling hasn't slept very well as a result. Did I teach you other technical terms? Though I'd just be repeating what Miss Toriumi taught me. For beginners, there's only Richi. A few intermediate phrases such as, I got a reverse Dora. Looks like you're waiting for one tile. Or, you've got to have more than two, Han. Ooh, or advanced stuff like, you have a hand, don't you? Or, I have all the tiles you're waiting for. And, Mungen Booyah! So far, I've only had the chance to use beginner phrases, though. Miss Toriumi is a very patient teacher. She'll tell me, you should throw this one away, or, you won't get in many points if you call that one, so I wouldn't. And, I dropped that tile by accident, so you can't ron it. She's taught me so much. I haven't been able to win a single match. Yeah. Mr. Ono doesn't seem to be returning. God, I forgot how many times you have to show up here for him to come back. There's something other than social links there? Geico-con?
Good day.
About requests. What do you have? Create a persona with Auto Maraku. Oh, I have like 4 of those. Cool. Bring me a Christmas present. Christmas has brought good cheer to everyone recently, and you may even receive a present during this period. A figure called Santa supposedly flies all over the world, giving gifts to those considered nice. However, I've yet to receive mine. I believe he must have forgotten it, or worse, misplaced it. May I trouble you to pick up my present from this Santa? Yeah, sure. Yoshigiri you to Sudna retrieve the progress report.
By all means.
From the top floor of Habara, the 5th block of Tartarus. Document lies even higher up, waiting to be discovered. I'd love to see it for myself. Cool. Use Masakato. Try Odin juice. We didn't clean the restroom ever?
Very well.
I thought that was something we had done. You can't be in here. I'm still cleaning the floors. Oh, you're not here to use the toilet? Oh, okay, so you're here to help out then, huh? Oh, you even brought your own brush. You really came prepared, don't you? Well, alright then. Why don't you start from the other corner? Use soap. Scrub harder. Wow, you could eat off that floor. You help clean the school restrooms after lunch or something? You really know your stuff. Thanks, kid. Just leave the rest of it to me. Definitely helped clean the restroom. What can I say? I'm goated. I've got multiple at Iwatodai Strip Mall as well. Is that Mamoru and... Yeah, that's just saying that I have multiple social links there. My daughter was arrested. They said she was ditching school to go shopping. I was so tired from my late shifts that I had to beg my wife to go get her instead. Wish they could understand what I'm going through and let me sleep at home. Yeah, man.
Good day. Are you accepting a wonderful?
You've completed a request. One moment, please, while I check. Thank you for your help cleaning up the Port Island Station restroom. Yes. The brush you used to clean the bathroom. The filth that's now encrusted on the bristles might help in battle. A very primitive form of biological warfare. Maybe this sort of weapon is a sort of weapon fusion? No? Please take this as your reward.
Very well then.
Elizabeth. I beg.
Hello. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go with Mitsuru. That'll get her to rank 5. We're making good progress with her. We can go with Mamoru on Sunday to get him to, I think, 6. I'm just trying to figure out timing. Truth is, a friend of ours told me that I should go out to unwind. Normally I wouldn't give it another thought, but I admit it might be doing me some good this time. Shall we go then?
It's so simple. You just purchase a ticket at the window and then walk in to enjoy a film.
Wow, it's incredible.
This may sound silly to you, but I've always wanted to try the whole theater experience.
No, Mitsuru.
Even though we sat at the end of the aisle, I didn't feel that my view was compromised in the least. It seems a lot of thought goes into the design and construction of a movie theater.
Yeah. Said the rich girl. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's thanks to you. I've never felt comfortable enough to come here alone. I'm sure most people don't consider this to be such a big deal.
Yeah, she's a daughter of like the CEO of a super mega like Walmart, and so she's hella rich, and she ain't know what the fuck's going on. We took her to fucking McDonald's the other day and it blew her mind. She was like, wait, you're telling me you just like pick up this burger and just eat that shit with your hands? What the hell?
I imagine someone like you.
How you doing, Chris? Good to see you.
Seeing a movie by herself. She's likely more suited to riding a motorcycle than I am as well.
A motorcycle? She was eating with a fork and knife. She was out here like cutting the French fries.
Support for the team. However, that wasn't my original motivation for getting it. With a motorcycle, I can go where I want, when I want, all on my own. You could say it's my modest attempt at rebellion against the many restrictions of my life. After it was damaged, I considered letting go, but ultimately I decided to have it repaired instead.
Hell yeah, yippee.
Even now, I spend my time tuning it whenever I can.
Let's go for a ride.
Together? Just the two of us?
Just the two of us.
Can you ride one on your own? Or do you plan to cling on behind me?
I'll get a sidecar. Don't worry.
Whichever it is, you've got your work cut out for you. In any case, you have my thanks. I'm feeling a lot better now.
Sarah's expressing her appreciation. I feel like our relationship has grown. Yippee!
You know, I have to wonder, when my parents went through stressful times, maybe they had moments like this too.
Maybe.
Sorry, I know this isn't the proper place to stand around chatting, but if it's all right with you, why don't we stay here a bit longer before heading back?
Pass some time with Missouri, then headed back to the dorm. Sick. Oh, hey. So, like, what if everything yesterday was all some crazy dream, you know?
Sorry.
Probably not, though, huh?
Hey, so...
I think everyone's going to need some time to process everything. It was all so sudden. But should we still go through everything we know? Do you want to go over it together? Can we avoid the fall? He said it's impossible. Nyx is death itself, so we can't avoid it. Or defeat it.
Sorry.
What if we let Ryoji live? If we let Ryoji live, we'll have to face Nyx. And apparently Nyx is undefeatable. So unfair. What if we kill Ryoji? Then the coming of the fall may be delayed by a little. But our memories related to the Dark Hour will disappear. Maybe the easiest way, but I don't think I want that.
Sorry.
So what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to make a decision. I don't want to run away. With everything going on, I don't think we'll be able to go to Tartarus for a while. I need to sort my thoughts, too. Oh, but did you want to ask me something? Searching Persona users. According to Ryoji-kun, the reason there are more Persona users is because of your existence. You came here with Ryoji-kun inside you, bringing us all together, along with the shadows that had been dispersed to different locations. We should organize the information we already have. Is there anything you want to go over? What happened to Aegis? After the incident, Aegis was taken to the laboratory. Researchers are tending to her, but with the injuries she sustained, it's going to take a while. My existence. From what Ryoji-kun said, 10 years ago, you happened to be present when Aegis and Ryoji-kun were fighting. Aegis couldn't defeat Ryoji-kun, so she decided to seal him inside you. There's such a thing done to you. The 12 shadows reviving. When you moved here, Ryoji-kun began to awake from inside you, and the 12 shadows started making their move. Why did Aegis dislike Ryoji? Aegis may have lost her memories of the battle she waged with Ryoji Makuzuchi 10 years ago, but some part of her must have still detected that he was a shadow, an incredibly strong shadow that she had faced once before. Why does Ryoji look human? That's an excellent question. Ryoji Mochizuki is a shadow. The same shadow that Aegis sealed inside you 10 years ago. Over those 10 years, that shadow changed as a result of being held within a human. Eventually, it gained the appearance and characteristics of a human being itself. And those human characteristics are what influenced it to give us a choice.
So,
I was hoping this was all just a bad dream. I remember the other time I wished everything was a dream. Yeah. Stupid Ryoji. Thinking the world is gonna end out of nowhere. What the hell does he mean by the appriser anyways? We have to stay calm. If we panic, we won't be able to make the right choice. First, we should go over all the information we have. That is purpose. Shadows are pieces of Nyx, and their sole reason of existence is to revive her. It's the appriser. The appriser is the one who summons Nyx. The appearance of the appriser is a sign that the fall is near, and all humans will become members of the Lost. I guess everything that's happening right now is just the beginning. Who is Nyx? According to Ryoji, it was Nyx who brought the concept of death to the planet. Nyx will turn every human being into a member of the Lost. And because the Lost cannot survive without someone taking care of them, everyone will die. Well, that's great. Hey, Koromor, you want to get petted? I can't do anything with him. Tragically. Oh, is this where I get my Christmas present? Hey, dude. Hey, you there. This may seem sudden, but do you want to be Santa? Santa? Well, just between you and me, I'm the Santa who makes kids' wishes come true on Christmas. Well, you can't really tell when I'm dressed like this. I'm actually looking for someone to help me with my merry duties right now. It's a special job, but we're always short on staff. What do you say? Want to give it a try? Yeah, I'll do it. Great, let's get on with it. But first, one question for you. Can you show me proof that you've done something good for the world? Something good I've done for the world. If I rescue someone from something dangerous, maybe then he'll acknowledge my need. Come to think of it, I received a thank you letter from a missing person I rescued. Is there something you want to show me? Showed the person claiming to be Santa a thank you letter. See, you rescued a missing person. Putting yourself on the line to help others is not something everyone can do. Fantastic, you passed the test. Here, take this. And a hat. Congratulations, you're now a certified Santa. Apprentices only get the hat, though. Right off the bat, here's your first task. Deliver this to someone who needs it. Christmas present. All this work is pretty much taken care of already. You can start working hard for next year. Well, I'll see you when the time comes. Merry Christmas. Cool.
Good day.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Are you accepting? Wonderful.
So you finally brought me my Christmas present. Then, without further ado, Elizabeth took not the present, but the Santa hat and put it on. I see. One must first become Santa before partaking in Christmas. Because that experience itself is the most valuable gift of all, is it not? Oh, Elizabeth. I brought an actual gift. Oh, is that so? My apologies. However, I've taken quite a liking to this hat, so you may have the present. Consider it a Christmas present from the one and only Elizabeth Claus. Wow, thanks. 3 rubies. Neat.
Very well.
Where do I get Odin juice? That's something I need to figure out. Okay. I need to... Oh, there's a student at my school. Cool. Okay. That I need to trade drinks with. It's a good thing I bought all those drinks from the school trip. I think Mutatsu was available. Boo doo boo. We'll grow stronger soon. Cool. So that will get him to rank 9 the next time we hang out with him. So he's just about done. Tanaka's, I think, 7. So we should be able to get him as well.
Hey, did you hear?
Did you hear about Ryoji-kun in class 2F? His parents got transferred again, so he won't be around anymore.
What?
My god, really? So that's why he was absent yesterday. Who would have thought he'd managed to fit in so quickly in just 1 month? Talk about mysterious. First bell is rung. Class is ended for today. Yukari told me, you sound so angry and you're so stiff in response to my messages. So I've been trying to work on, we've been trying to use emojis. Smile. Is it working? I'm thinking of stopping by the library later. Would you care to join me? Mitsuru. This girl has never been outside a day in her life. Okay. Person I'm looking for should be in the courtyard. I can go to the faculty office as well. How do I get to the courtyard? It's this way. I don't remember the layout of this school very well. Specifically the courtyard, because I never go there. Hello. Oh, that drink. Can I see it? Ooh, is this the limited edition drink you can only get in Kyoto? Wow, impressive. I have to say, I love these rare drinks. Have you seen the Odin juice? It's only available in the fall. You want some? Well, I can't let you have it for free. I'll need, let's say, 5,000 yen to part with it. What? You're really gonna pay me 5,000 yen for this? Wow, you must really be a rare drink maniac. Thanks though, now I can get my own rare drink. Hey, maybe you could help me out, a fellow rare drink maniac. Do you think if we made those persimmons into a drink, maniacs all over the country would like it? Small persimmon tree is growing here. Seems to have a special meaning for the old couple at the bookstore. Boom. 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 Finally! Ah, I've been waiting for you. Okay, not really. I looked and looked, but there's nothing at my house that's not related to Masamune. This didn't belong to Masamune personally, but still has ties to him, so... You really need this? Maybe you've reconsidered? Not that I'm reluctant at all to give it to you, of course. So I'll give it to you, but to take good care of it, right? It'll become a family heirloom, right?
Glad to hear it.
You must be proud, Kodak. You've got a family heirloom now. Yeah, I guess this is how it should be. Well, I've still got a few of these left at home. This is the second time I've given my helm to a student after all. That BB. Do you know him? He's an exchange student in my class. Back in the spring when he first came here, he admired it so much that I let him have it. It does my heart good to see the samurai spirit is still alive in you kids, even those from a foreign country. It must be because the glorious lives of the Sengoku generals transcend history. Masamune Date, for example. The amazing thing about him is that he... Great, thank you. Cool. Managed to obtain a helm from Mr. Ono. Cool. So I now can turn both of those into Elizabeth. I'll do that tonight.
Yes.
Or the next time I go out and see her. I'm in no rush. I was considering stopping to the library before leaving. I see. You're a very diligent student.
Sorry to drag you along on this personal venture.
Yeah, no problem. Looking for something specific?
No, not exactly, but thank you. Looking through the literature section made me realize something. There are so many books about romance, but far fewer on the domestic life that comes after it.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if that means the most exciting time in one's life comes prior to the wedding. Does everyone go into marriage with the expectation of losing something?
No, not terribly.
The truth is, the group is in turmoil over the inheritance issue, and some of the older members are of the opinion that a student like me isn't up to the task. But I'm the daughter of the head of the group. I need to show that I can take the lead, even if I have to make sacrifices to do it.
Did something happen?
Fiancé has been chosen for me. He's the new president of one of our affiliates, and he's much older than me. But if I agree to the marriage, the future of the company will be secured. He's planning to announce the partnership and our engagement at the same time. Doing so will give the appearance that the company is stable both inside and out. This is the best solution for everyone involved.
Everyone but you. Is it really?
This was decided a long time ago. It's just going to take place a bit sooner than originally planned, that's all. This is for the best. My mother and father walked the same path, so I won't run from my fate.
I'll do something about it. Are you sure about this?
Of course I am. Think about it. What would I do if I broke off the engagement?
I don't know. Be a strong, independent woman who don't need no man?
Leave everything behind and go on a journey of self-discovery?
That too, I guess.
Why would you ask me that? You're making me doubt myself.
Drew looks conflicted. I feel like our relationship has grown. Rank 6.
Say, recently I've been feeling a little hesitant about meeting up with you like this. I already made the decision to carry out my duty, but whenever I talk with you, my resolve begins to falter. Why do I feel this way when I'm with you?
Great question.
I think it would be best if we left off here for today. Sorry to do this after inviting you out here, but I need to head home and go over some paperwork on the partnership. Excuse me.
Okie doke. Bye, Mitsuru. Parting with Mitsuru, set us for in the dorm. I love when that kind of thing happens where it's like, I need to go home and I need to... hi, Mitsuru. I need to go home and work on something. So I part ways with them and go home. And we live in the same... Like, do we just, like, you know... Do we, like, leave the library and, like, go out different doors and then just, like, pretend like we don't see each other the entire, like, train ride home? Or just, you know, just, like, fucking sit on opposite sides of the train car and just, like, look away from each other? Just, you know... Yeah, anyway. I don't know who that guy is. No, never mind. There's no point in asking such things. Are you scared? No, I don't think scared is the right word. I just can't seem to comprehend all that happened. I thought I had become stronger after dealing with what happened to my father, but...
Hey!
Reggie-kun said the unification was interrupted. That was probably from what my dad did, huh? My dad stood up to the fall back then, so now it's my turn.
Hello.
Kutsuki and my grandfather both accepted the fall as the rightful fate of the world. They didn't believe the world was worth saving. What destroyed their hope for the future? They just sit and see... They just stare at each other across the way, just like... Not a word said to each other, just staring.
Hey.
I wanted to hear Natsuki-chan's voice, so I called her. You could tell that I was worried about something and asked me what was wrong. But how could I tell her the world's gonna end soon? I just don't know what to do. Yeah, I feel like that would be a hell of a bombshell to drop on your friend. Like, hey, what's wrong? Oh yeah, you know, I found out that the world's gonna end in, like, February. It's December 5th. You know, get your affairs in order or whatever. Thinking about it isn't going to change anything, so I'm going to train. That's all I can do at this point. How old are you? If you're in high school, that makes you around 16, 17 years old. Don't ask me about my age, though. Come quickly. No, time is money. Okay. Yeah, we can go with Tanaka.
Good day.
Something I can assist you with?
Are you
Yes.
accepting a request?
Wonderful.
Brought you some Odin juice. Oh, that's the legendary Odin juice. Though at first glance, it appears to be an ordinary can of juice. Oh, it's warm.
True?
It's grainy mouthfeel. It must be one of the ingredients in Odin. Feels like daikon, or maybe an egg? How very mysterious. I see technology advances at a rapid pace. I will wait until later to savor the taste of this juice. Winter uniform.
Wonderful.
It seems you've completed a request. I see, so this is it. The helm from the ancient Sengoku era. The heft, the texture, the character for love on the brow. Does that love protect the head? Or is that love for the helm?
Splendid.
Mysteries upon mysteries. Still, it's a wonderful helm. This satisfies my request. Why don't you take the helm with you? I believe it suits you far better than it does me. 7 twilight fragments. Go water the flowers.
Think of it.
While we were taking a stroll around Gekuhan High School together, I noticed the flowers in the rooftop garden were on the verge of dying, perhaps because not many people frequent that area. What a sad sight for such a lovely spot. Would you be so kind as to give those flowers some water?
Wait a report of success.
Yeah, okay.
Very well.
Hold on. Let me make sure I get a devil.
Welcome to the Velvet Room. Registering personas is overriding.
Ah.
This
Yes,
is
cat.
your progress so far.
Has your rush calmed down a little bit?
May it be your inner strength.
Hopefully.
Very well. We look.
If it isn't Kodak, teach you a life lesson that you don't want to miss, and it's even free of charge. I see. Then for today, I have a story that's fresh off the press.
I'm used to being accosted by people, but recently I had an interesting encounter.
Uh-huh.
It was a young man, not much older than you. Do you know what he said to me? He said, "Thank you."
Why would he say that?
I'm not proud of this or anything, but I couldn't care less what our customers think.
Uh-huh.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the president of a company that sells fake products.
Yeah.
But then he told me he quit his part-time job and was going to study to become a public prosecutor. He wants to punish businessmen like me for bending the rules.
Right.
He said I was an example of a negative role model, even though I wasn't aware of it.
No, he was right.
Maybe I'm overreacting, but what if he does become a public prosecutor and puts me behind bars? I suppose that means I wouldn't be able to give you my advice.
So long as you give me 2 more pieces of advice so I can get to rank 10, then, you know, I would not be overly upset about this.
My shareholders ought to take a leaf out of that boy's book. Apparently, it's these days aren't as naive as we thought.
Getting late, so I'll go back to the dorm. Was on the last bite of your Borg and you bit into a hard piece of gristle or some shit, spit out the little piece and had to spit out the rest of it because I mentally could not do it. Food fears are the worst. Aww. That's no fun. No, it's stressed. Oh god. Why did everyone decide to come this day on a day that wasn't even supposed to be a day you were on? Been a massive fuck up in your second truck of the night. Yeah, you can't shake the feeling bad now, even though it worked out. You're also starting to load the truck with the wrong sand. Caught it, but still feel bad, just combusting. Listen, you're on an extra day of a shift on a like horrendously busy day. There's nothing to worry about. Shit's gonna happen, And if they did not want that to happen, they should have figured something out to not have you have to work extra days and longer hours. That's, you know, that's not a you problem. Truck 20? God damn. Those expensive fruits you normally can't afford? Well, we have a good deal for today. First up, we have the Hogyoku apple. They come in a bundle of 3. These fine apples can't be found on any old market.
Not bad.
We'll also throw in this Hiranya mandarin. 2. Okay. Sure, why not? I don't know what either of those things do, but we'll get them.
Thanks, kid.
An exam study set. Okay. Mamoru Bunkichi. One loadout has suddenly decided to load 3-ton light and you don't know why? Wow!
Right.
Just got a report from the laboratory. They are optimistic that Igus can be fully repaired. However, they are unsure as to how long it may take. Oh, I see. She was seriously damaged, so I'm relieved to hear that they can fix her at all. Phew, I hope she can come back soon, though. You don't have a head bang, but like pretend you do. I can see it. I can see it in my mind's eye. But what Stray has been saying this whole time reminds me a little what Ryoji-kun was talking about. Must have known something about the fall. It's so frustrating. Feels like we're being laughed at. Nothing we can do about it now. Let's just concentrate on Nyx.
Hey, so...
Wonder what Ryoji-kun is doing right now. They actually seem the most upset about the world coming to an end. Can't help but worrying about him too.
Right.
That's right. He doesn't wish for the fall to happen either. Sure, he wants the same thing we do. I got you, always. Can we do anything? Anything at all? This is just so difficult. Sorry, I shouldn't expect you to have an answer ready for everything. Do I have star persona? I do not. God, my persona loadout is so... It's really good personas, but it's really tragic because they're all like, you know, Fortune who... I don't have the Fortune link yet, right? Trying to think. Oh no, Fortune is Kaisuke. So I do have that one. Magician, so Kaisuke I never go see. Magician I've already finished. Fool is story based. Lovers I've finished. Death is story based. Empress I have 2 of. So, you know, that's helping me with Mitsuru. Temperance is BB, who we never go see anymore. Hierophant is Bunkichi and Mitsuko, who we haven't gone and seen in a while. Hermit we've already finished. Emperor is Hidetoshi, who we never go see. And then I'm switching this last spot out constantly to fill all the ones that we're trying to get. We're gonna need a star persona. So we're gonna use this phone. You have to reach further for the letters now. You're fine. See, now you get it though. When I am making, you know, 47 typos per minute because I'm typing too fast on my phone, now you understand. And now you can't roast me for it because this is exactly what happens to me. Wrong, I have big hands. Yeah, that's the problem. My thumb hits like 4 keys at once every time I press a button.
Please take a look.
We need star. Neko Shogun.
Very well, it's yours. Are you finished? We look...
I'm Mamoru. You have long hands, no fat hands. I want you to look at how big my thumb is compared to the screen. I need you to see that let's say if I were to bring up the keyboard to type something in. Let's see the keyboard. See that keyboard? And if I were to put my thumb on that keyboard, that's like 5 buttons at least. Use the tip. Yes, I do. But it's still big. This is about to grab a bite. How about you?
Yeah.
Cool, let's go. I'm going hard on the meat today. Oh, actually, you go on ahead. I'm not done working out yet. I'll be right there. That guy had 13-inch hands. Genuinely, though. Them shits are fucking huge.
Sorry, I kept you waiting.
It's okay. Are you okay? Underselling 16 at least. Maybe 20, you know? We'll just keep expanding the lore.
Let's go in.
Hey, yo.
Super thirsty.
You know what they say about people with big hands.
Oh, that was great. I always say food tastes better with a buddy.
What you mean by that? What you mean by that?
I used to come here all the time with my teammates, but
I'll come back here with you.
you're the only one who says that anymore. Anyway, they wouldn't come now even if I invited them. I don't really get along with people who don't take the sport seriously. Even started training at different times. Nothing's organized anymore. I used to love it there, you know. I spent all my time on the track, practicing and training. We all loved track and had so much fun together. Then, never mind. It doesn't matter. We're too different, them and me.
Hey, sometimes it'd be like that.
I'm going to reach heights they never will.
Oh,
I have to.
talk to him. I see he's really passionate about his sport. I feel like we're getting closer. Rank 5.
Sorry, that was a weird conversation. I think I'll do lunges the whole way home. You keep at it too. No slowing down.
You got it, Chief. So to go back to the dorm. Oh, it's you. Sorry, I was just thinking. Wondering if I met Shinji again someday, what he would say to me. What would he say?
No.
I bet he wouldn't say anything. He just punched me in the face before I ever had a chance to speak. He's got a strong right hook, so I'm sure it's gonna hurt. That Ryoji just up and disappeared after dropping that huge bomb about the world ending and us having to make a decision by New Year's Eve. Hell, man, this ain't funny. Can't seem to calm down. Damn it, what can we do? Bologna Mall. Who's here? Our good buddy Mutatsu. I can sense the power growing within you stems from the bonds you have forged and nurtured since. Here, it may not be much, but this is my gift to you. Please accept it.
I'm looking forward to it. How may I assist you?
Fuse personas, please. Summon.
Is your progress so far?
Tower Eligor.
Is this acceptable? Very well, it's yours. Are you finished?
What are we hawing?
We look.
What's being hawed? Mutatsu. Dude, look, you got some time to talk?
That's right.
JK, of course. All right, make yourself comfortable.
Hey, sorry about last time when, forget about it, all right? Anyway, would you mind listening to this old man complain?
I would never mind.
I'm sober today, so sit tight, will ya? All I had to do was look all serious and recite the sutras. I can make easy money from donations. That's what I thought. That's why I set aside my pride and begged my parents to let me take over the temple. Every day is someone's death anniversary. Kind of makes you think how long people have been around.
A long time.
I'm working memorial service after memorial service 24/7. If my little temple was some kind of convenience store.
Why don't I take a break?
Only I could. But I have a strong sense of duty. I can't say no to someone who needs my service. It's the burden of a strong moral compass. But, as you can see, I'm too busy.
Uh-huh.
I gotta push this old body of mine to the limit. I hate this work your ass off mentality. Maybe I should think of something else to do with my life. Can't keep this up for much longer. My alcohol tolerance is weaker too. I've been drinking too much lately. Making a fool of myself like I did the other day.
Uh-huh. Hang in there.
Thanks. I know you're just trying to make me feel better, but I'll take it. Oh. Then how's this for an excuse? We never filed for divorce, and I've got some pretty good real estate now that I've inherited this temple. It's not a bad deal. Got enough money that I can retire and just enjoy the rest of my life. What do you think?
I don't really care. What's this about?
Oh, well, I'm thinking about asking him to come back. You know, my wife, my son. First, I gotta find out where they are. I'll hire a detective. I don't care how much it costs. And when I see him, first thing I'm gonna do is tell him I'm sorry. From the bottom of my heart. I'm gonna be concentrating on them, so probably won't be seeing you anytime soon. Well, I'm glad this is it. One brat is all I can handle at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
Deal with my own son now.
Despite his harsh words, Mutatsu sounds like he's going to miss me. I feel like I understand Mutatsu a bit better. Rank 9! With the big man upstairs.
Like this, I never would have become a monk. I guess I'll go to a detective agency tomorrow. All right, let's get going, kid.
Bum bum bum.
Morning.
It's been pretty crazy lately, huh? No one's in the mood to talk either. It's understandable.
Yeah.
I just can't stop thinking about it, even when we have to do our best at school.
That's why.
December already? It's almost the end of the year. Let's not ruin our last month this year with laziness, okay? That's right, exams start next Monday. Though, didn't we just have them not too long ago? The material on the exam begins on page 160 and will include today's lesson as well. Let's see, how about we go over the definition of allotropy? The property of a certain elements that can exist in two or more forms that are chemically identical yet physically discrete. Makes sense? Well, allotropy is very common, and more common than you might think, like oxygen, for example. What's the name of the stratospheric layer of molecules comprised of 3 oxygen atoms? The ozone layer, because it's O for oxygen. Oxygen molecule is vital to humanity in general. The ozone allotrope in particular is necessary for all life on Earth. You are aware that the ozone layer absorbs harmful ultraviolet radiation, right? Sadly, due to the destruction of our climate, there's less and less ozone protecting us. I probably have nothing to worry about, but you kids might. We need to be more environmentally friendly for the sake of all life on this planet. Not having Igus and Ryoji in class. Feels so empty here. Yeah, and it's exam week, so we have no school social links today. This is a tough. Oh no, Mitsuru's here today. Oh, perfect. I was gonna say Monday is kind of a tough day because we can't go see Mamoru or Bunkichi out of school either. We have Mitsuru here today. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Sick. Are you leaving today? You don't have any plans. I'd like to stop somewhere before heading back. They made Mitsuru a lot more available than she was in the original. She was a lot harder to get to because she was like Tuesday, Thursdays. I think Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was her schedule in the original. Now it feels like she's here like every day. I'm sure if I should order the same thing as last time or try something completely new.
I think I've acquired a taste for fast food. Just the other day, I had the urge to ride my motorcycle out at night to buy some.
Uh-huh.
It's your fault that I'm having these temptations now, you know.
My bad.
Do you remember when I told you I was hesitant to meet up with you like this?
Uh-huh.
I'd like it if you could forget I ever said that. We both sleep under the same roof. There's no point in stressing over it. And besides, I just need to steel my resolve. Say, I have just one favor to ask.
Uh-huh.
Could you continue to show me new places like this? Just until graduation. I'd like to see more of this world that I've been so blind to. Or is that too selfish a request?
I don't mind at all.
Thank you. Let's make some wonderful memories with what little time we have left. You've taught me so many new things. Whether you're taking command in battle or just talking with me like this. As long as I have these memories of you, I'll be all right. Or so I hope.
Or so I hope. And since Mitsuru's resolved, our relationship has grown. Rank 7! Whee!
Now then, the day is still young. You promised me your time. I'd like you to make good on that now.
I hung out with Mitsuru until it was time to return to the dorm. Oh, hello. Why don't we all try to cheer up a little? Good idea. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm actually the one who's the most uneasy right now. Everyone's been thinking about the decision we have to make. Have you given it any thought? I've been trying to. Yeah, me too. It's not an easy decision to make.
Hello.
You have to make such a difficult decision. Did you ever imagine that we'd be in this situation? Never in a million years.
Right.
Neither could I. But regardless, it's happening. We must decide what we are going to do about it. I don't usually feel this way, but I'm kind of glad we have exams soon. Because when I'm studying, I don't have to think about what'll happen to us. Imagine studying for exams when you know the world's gonna end in like less than 2 months. Like, my ass would flunk that shit without a care in the world. Everyone in school is just going about their day as if nothing's wrong. They think everything's normal. Must be nice. Is that what being happy's like? Nurse is bliss, I guess.
Wait, seriously?
Figures, I finally learned something about myself and now I'm gonna die. Probably what Chidori meant when she said she was afraid. Chidori, I think I finally get it now.
Hey.
You make a schedule so you can achieve a goal. Without a future, a training schedule is pointless. Damn it, I don't know what to do. Nobody available today. It's a Monday night, so we can go play some games. Punch Boxer.
Oh,
Good morning. Have you reached a decision about, you know? I made up my mind. See, you really are strong. To be honest, I'm really scared. Wonder what everyone else is thinking. Even Amada-kun looked troubled. This is ending for today. Nozumi Mitsuru. If I can just straight up complete Mitsuru during this like off period, that would be huge. If she's just available every day here, and I can just finish her link almost completely during this exam week when I normally wouldn't be able to finish like any of these school social links, that would be a massive get. Because what are we sitting at? Mitsuru's at 7. Bunkichi's at 8. Chihiro's at 8. Naka's at 8. Mutatsu's at 9. Mamoru is one that we have to get. But again, he's available on Sundays, and he's like the only person who is going to be consistently available on Sunday. So he'll be pretty easy to get a few free days, and then we'll have to go one of his other days, which I think it's Wednesday and Friday, I want to say, or his other days. Old Couple's easy to get on non-school days, Saturdays especially, or like off days of school. Because Saturday I feel like there's not a lot of people available. And then yeah, Chihiro, Kaz, and Yuko are all kind of close.
Hello.
You're busy. I was hoping you'd join me for another movie. Yeah, let's go. Fantastic. But I'd rather not go with anyone else, but you... never mind me. Let's get going.
I'd been interested in seeing that film for a while now. It was a fascinating watch. While the road trip plot was nothing out of the ordinary, the way the characters expressed their emotions was masterful. When the main character left everything behind to go on a journey, that really struck a chord with me. And then in the final scene, he decided to return to his normal life. I wonder if he was happy with that decision.
I wonder.
Say, have you ever thought of running away to a place like that?
I've considered it.
Somewhere far away where no one knows who you are?
Yes.
I see. So you feel that way too sometimes. I'm not saying I wish to leave everything behind. It's just that every now and then, the things that matter are the very things that hold you back. The future of the company, the weight of my responsibilities. Sometimes I even wish that I wasn't shackled by the Kirijo family name. I know. I understand that I can't afford to think this way. Listen to me complaining like this. How pathetic. Talking to you has become something of an outlet for me. I'm sure you're sick of it by now.
Vent all you want.
That's very kind of you. The offer is quite tempting. I hope you know what you're getting into.
Sue seems to trust me. I feel like our relationship has grown. Rank 8! Bada bing, bada boom.
while we're on the topic, there's something I'd like to ask you. Hypothetically, let's say that I was interested in someone right now.
Uh-huh. Is hypothetically, yeah, this isn't something that's is happening, but hypothetically, if you were,
I knew I could never be with him, but even so, I couldn't help but harbor these feelings. Would that be wrong? Keep in mind, this is a what if.
yeah, this is it's completely hypothetical, not a real scenario. That's up to you.
Up to me.
Ah, there you are. Hey, Mitsuru.
Oh boy.
I've been looking all over for you. So this is where you've been. Come on, let's go.
What? Wait a minute. I didn't make any plans with you for today.
What does it matter? I managed to secure an opening in my schedule tonight. I'm a very busy man, you know. As a simple student, you're just going to have to work around it.
I can't. I've already made plans.
Do you know how long I spent looking for you?
Clearly, you weren't that busy if you spent this long looking for her.
Don't tell me you have something more important to do than spend time with me. Why the long face? You're supposed to be my fiancé, you know. Honestly, I thought you understood our arrangement. If you're going to be my future wife, you'll need to learn some obedience. Why must you and your family always be so difficult? Well, at least your father's not around anymore, so that's something of a relief.
All right, time to kill him.
I imagine you feel the same.
How dare you say that?
No, I'm with her. Step in.
Thank you.
Who the hell are you?
I could be a big problem for you is what I could be.
This is none of your business. Get lost. Come on, Mitsuru. You know how this works. Corporate management is not child's play. No matter how smart you are, you're still going to need my knowledge and experience. And the Kirijo group still needs the cooperation of my...
Nah, they don't.
Doesn't it?
Nah.
Yes.
Good girl, Mitsuru. I knew you would listen to reason. Now, let's go. I've made reservations for us at a luxurious restaurant.
All right. I wish you hadn't seen that. Thank you for today. It was quite fun. I'm sorry. Really. Please excuse me.
Don't give in.
It's all right. I appreciate the sentiment, though.
Come on, Mitsuru, hurry up. By the way, you.
Yeah, what about me?
Who do you think you are, worming your way into her favor? You ought to know your place in society.
Okay, so once again, I reiterate, we're eating the rich, right?
A commoner like you isn't
We're eating the rich.
breathe the same air.
What's up, Sudoku? How are you?
Don't you understand? You're just a nuisance.
Oh my gosh. Vanna! Hello. How are you? How was your stream? It's good to see you. Welcome, Raiders. Thank you for the shout out, Kat. Assuming it'll work. It won't, but assuming. Give it a minute. There it goes. How are you? What were you up to? Welcome in, everybody. Ugh. It's a good opportunity for me to stretch and hydrate. The rich are toxic. I don't want my friend to get poisoned by eating the rich. We dispose of them in other ways. You know, valid. Understandable.
Unbelievable. There's a world of difference between you and us. Mitsuru, take care not to associate with his kind anymore.
Enough.
Mitsuru?
Talk to him.
I said that's enough.
Yeah.
I won't let you insult him.
What? Why are you getting so angry?
This is someone I have a great deal of respect for. If you insult him, you insult me.
Oh, get his ass.
Mitsuru? What are you saying? You would side with him over me?
Yeah, I feel like most would.
You said there was a world of difference between you and him. Well, you're right. You can't compare to him at all.
Oh, get his ass. Talk to him.
He stands on his own 2 feet, challenging fate with his own strength of will.
Not the forward-facing Mitsuru. that portrait. Why are there so many just... Did some Dragon's Dogma, tried to be productive, but went running off to beat up stuff instead. That's all you should really do ever. That's the best part of games, is just running around wildly. Yeah, why are you upset? I only said it's a good thing that your father's dead and that your friends are bad and also you're stupid. I mean, I don't understand why you're mad at me.
Seeing his outlook on life has inspired and influenced me countless times. I want to be with him now and forever.
Mitsuru, I don't know how to break this to you. I am kind of in a relationship with your best friend.
Be with him? Now and forever? What are you trying to say? You're supposed to be my fiancé. Are you implying I'm beneath this nobody? Take that back this instant, Mitsuru! It's not too late to ask for forgiveness. Think about the future of your company.
I will not apologize. I want to be with him. You're not the one supporting me in my time of need.
Oh.
The group will do just fine on its own. We don't need help from a weasel like you.
Talk to him.
As of today, we'll have nothing to do with each other. And if you dare to attempt some petty retaliation, then next time you'll have the full might of the group to contend with. Get out of here, you Philistine! I don't want to see your face ever again.
Drag his ass. Drag his ass. Let's go, Mitsuru. Yeah, go cry into Grandpa. Hey. Oh. See you later, Mitsuru. I decided to return the door. We live in the same dorm. Box in the counter. Harsh even for him, yeah. That's pretty rough. Hey, Mitsuru, we're gonna... No, we're not gonna talk about what happened today?
Right.
Okay, cool. It's neat. We can take Koromaru for a walk. Yeah, let's go take him for a walk, shall we? I don't think Tanaka's available, but we're good on Tanaka days. We're comfortably gonna complete that. Chihiro! Oh, convenient. That'll make sure that we definitely can finish hers without too much issue.
I ran out of soy sauce, so...
Ma'am, it's like 9 p.m. and you ran out of soy sauce and are now going on a walk to the shrine to go get...
Oh, is that dog, he doesn't bite, does he?
He does, but only against demons.
I'm actually a little afraid of dogs. I was attacked by one when I was little. It only knocked me over, but ever since then...
Okay, but look at him. He wouldn't harm a fly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still a little scared, but maybe I'll be okay with this one. I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time. I'll see you at school then.
Kuromaro and I return to the dorm. Hey, Aki. Even though we're about to face death, we're still going to school as if nothing's happened. Have you decided?
No.
I haven't. But I'm not trying to avoid it either. I want to believe that I'll reach an answer. Alright, everyone. Finals are almost here. Let's begin. Toho Kame. Yeah, you know what? Are you listening? Don't become mesmerized. Choose me. What sorcery was Himiko said to have used? A Himiko? I only know Himiko as the lady who blasts down lasers from the SkyTrain. Class is ended for today. Zero, no subject. I know I gave you some trouble the other day. It's been on my mind this whole time. When we meet, I'd like to talk with you. I'm pretty sure you already know what about. I just need to tell you what's on my mind. Actually, hold on. Talk to you later then. Yeah, before we do that, I have to water the flowers on the roof. I almost forgot. How do I get to the roof? Rooftop. There we go. Okay. On this bench, huh? On this bench, huh? They're gonna put a fragment on that. Okay. 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 Yeah. No. Okay. Flowers seem to be doing great. Flowers seems like they're about to wilt. Looks like the spot that didn't get any water. Maybe we should water the flower bed. They should be fine for now. Seem to be doing great. Okay. Cool. Seem to be doing great. Did we do it? That guy there, is he acting funny? Yeah, he is. I don't know. Yeah, I thought he seemed weird. Oh man. The first thing I do when I get to school is look for her. Then when I finally find her, I get butterflies in my stomach. What should I do? What should I do? Okay, yeah, he is acting a little weird. Good luck with that. Where's the... Oh. So did that count as me doing it? It did. Okay, cool. I thought I would have to do more. Right then. In that case, could we go to the roof? Hey, it was just there.
All right. I don't think anyone will come up here.
There were just like several people up here, but yeah.
I leveraged my position on the student council to make it happen.
Oh, okay.
This is, the first time I've ever used my authority for personal reasons. Wait, that's not important right now. What am I doing? What I'm trying to say is, we need to talk. Firstly, I have to apologize. I'm sorry for what happened last time.
It made me happy.
Oh, so it did. When that happened, I said all manner of things about you, and then I just
Yeah.
ran off.
And then you had a casual conversation with me in the lounge like an hour later and like pretended like nothing happened.
That was unbelievably insensitive of me. I'm sorry. I had been planning on telling you my feelings. I just didn't think I'd end up shouting them in public like that.
Your feelings? Talk about bold.
Hey, don't tease me like that. I didn't think I had it in me either. Ever since I started spending time with you, my life has been full of new experiences. I felt shock, joy, even outrage, but every time I've always been thinking of you. Now that it's come to this, I'm obligated to tell you exactly how I feel.
Is it like written in the contract? Like
Here goes. I love you.
ooh. This is awkward. Ooh. Sirius' voice is trembling. I'd better choose my words carefully. Think of it. I have a special relationship with another person already.
I feel like I'm going to die of embarrassment.
Ooh.
I see. That's unfortunate, but I'm glad I cleared the air. You told me it was up to me how to handle these emotions. Thanks to that, I was able to be honest with myself.
Well, she's over it now. Great.
If I had kept my feelings locked up, I never would have been able to move forward. It is imperative to be true to our hearts, just as you were with your answer. Thank you. If I hadn't harbored these emotions, I would have continued lying to myself, justifying it all under the Kirijo name. And if that had happened, there's no doubt I would have failed on my path in the future. From now on, I'm not going to let myself be constrained by my family heritage.
Yippee!
It's because of who I am as an individual that I ended up meeting you.
I can sense Mitsura's deep trust. Feels like our relationship has grown. Rank 9! Yay!
Now then,
God, we speed ran her
I have a lot to thank you for.
link.
There's one more matter I'd like to bring up. I haven't eaten since this morning, so I'm terribly famished. I'd say you bear some responsibility for
How?
this.
How do I... Elaborate?
I could do with some takoyaki on our way back. Your treat? I'd hardly complain if you were to do at least that much to mend a broken heart.
You know, fair enough. Stop by the strip mall and then return to the dorm. She said, damn, you rejected me. All right, guess you gotta buy me dinner.
Hey.
Welcome back. It's already been a week since Ryoji-kun told us everything, huh? Didn't sleep for 3 days after that. Feels weird being this scared. Everyone else is scared too. Yeah, I guess you're right. You know, I feel like no one really knows how much they take their lives for granted until they think there's a real possibility they might lose it. I don't think anyone can really understand that kind of thing until they actually feel it.
Yeah.
When you saved us on that monorail, I thought I understood the weight of life. It turns out it's actually way heavier than I thought. We can study with Ken and Koro. I have some homework to do, but I'm having trouble getting started on it. You have exams coming up, right? In that case, why don't we study together? Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
I don't need the academics, but I want to study with them. Well then, let's do our best.
Sorry to bother you like this. I just had a hard time focusing when I tried doing my homework alone. Thank you for agreeing to study with me. Koromaru says he'll study with us too. Right, boy?
Look at him.
It must be tough for you guys, having to think about tests at a time like this.
Gets me fired up even more.
Huh? You're actually enjoying this? Even in the face of grave danger, you never give up. You fight back with all your might. Like a hero! That's so cool! Still, the only thing we can do is carry on and complete our schoolwork as always. What's the matter, Koromaru? Huh. He's got something in his mouth.
A Red Bull. Oh, thank you.
Did you bring this here for us? Thanks, Koromaru. I guess he's trying to cheer us up. I shouldn't make him worry so much. Okay, time to study. If I have any questions, can I ask you for help?
Naturally.
And done! That's it for my homework! Oh, you're still studying, aren't you? Is it okay if I stay here for a little while? I'll be sure not to bother you. Koromaru and I will be cheering you on. Good luck!
I'm gonna continue studying with Amada and Koromaru by my side.
Oh, are you all done now? Cool! Koromaru was with us the whole... Wait, what? Where did he go?
Oh, welcome back.
Were you waiting for us to finish? I guess it's our turn to hang out with him. Thanks for studying with me today. If you're okay with it, I'd like to do this again sometime.
Oh. Hello.
Hello, this is Elizabeth speaking.
Hi, Elizabeth.
I'm calling in regard to a recent change in Tartarus.
Oh.
It seems that a path that had been blocked off is now open.
Neat.
I thought it prudent to inform you. Well then, I wish you a safe journey.
Boom, 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 boom.
Hello.
Good morning. How does everyone seem regarding that discussion? They're thinking hard.
Right.
I see. Well, I feel the same as the others. We can't continue on like this forever. We should talk with everyone tonight. Class is ended for today. It's me, Smile. As if there's no end to this cold weather. Take care not to get get sick. How does your schedule look? Could you accompany me somewhere today? I still can't get used to using emojis. And her rank will go up. So that's rank 10. We'll max Mitsuru today. Which then, where's our calendar? Nothing in particular. Nothing in particular. Nothing in particular. New Year's Eve. Finals. Emperor's birthday. Okay. So Mitsuru we're gonna max. We're gonna get her to 10. Then we have old couple at 8. 7, 8, 7. And Mamoru at 5. Those are our goals. And then Aigis will come available next month. And will be one that we have to kind of speed run. That's what we know for sure. 2 days with the treasurer, 2 days at least with the old couple, 3. The 4 there are 10 days total, at least 5 days for Mamoru, and then 10 days for Aigis. It'll be close. We'll see. I don't know that we'll get all of those done, but It depends on how many days they actually give us available. Because in the originals, January did not have a lot of days available. Do you have any plans today? If not, then maybe we could...
I see.
That's good to hear. You've shown me many new things, so I'd like to return the favor this time. That said, let's head back to the dorm first.
The battery and tire pressure look good. And I've already changed the oil, so that's fine.
Impressive.
Well, this is just basic maintenance. Anyone can do the same. Though if I start tinkering with the suspension and whatnot, there'd be no end to it. There have been days I've lost track of time doing this and had to run into meetings covered in oil. It seems I'm the type of person who can fall very deep into things. I'll have to be more careful.
Uh-huh.
Oh, by the way, the matter involving my ex-fiancé was resolved sooner than I expected.
Oh, that's
They
good.
ended up reaching out to us about a potential business arrangement. Without any of the marriage talks, of course. We managed to negotiate some favorable terms, so that should put the company back on track.
Great.
I could have decided to burn that bridge, but I'd prefer not to shut down a genuine attempt to compromise. It may be thanks to you that I've become so open-minded. All right, before we head out, I had a small gift for you, since you've done so much for me.
Motorcycle key.
It's the key to my motorcycle. I'm not going to run from my future anymore. Rather, there's no longer any need to. This motorcycle isn't meant to be an escape from my feelings. It's a dear friend that gives me the freedom to go wherever I please. Once I realized that, I felt that I absolutely had to show it to you. As our leader, I think it would be quite fitting if you had the skill to ride my dear friend here. When this is all over, let's take this motorcycle and go on a trip somewhere together.
Great idea. I don't feel like it.
We'll have to start thinking about where we want to go.
The good news is, since you can, afford to just take us anywhere, we don't really have to worry about the location.
I look forward to the day you learn how to ride it yourself. Once we go on that trip, I imagine it'll be full of things I've still yet to see. You are the one who taught me the joy of new discoveries. I can hardly wait.
She seems to respect me deeply as a friend she can trust. We did it! Woo!
I am thou. Thou art I. The bond thou hast nurtured hath finally matured. The innermost power of the Empress Arcana.
This is a good feeling, because I remember my first playthrough of Persona 3 on P3P. I left both Mitsuru and Aigis on rank 9 at the end of the game, and I was like... I was devastated. I left both of them on 9 because I didn't answer my questions correctly and didn't, do like personas correctly and whatnot. And I didn't have enough points, and I had to do like an extra day with both of them that I didn't plan for in my scheduling. And I just ran out of time. I can now fuse Alalat, the ancient goddess.
All right, I think we've talked enough. Today, it's my turn to show you something new. Go ahead and sit on the back.
Yippee!
Don't worry, it's just a short drive. I even prepared a helmet for you. The weather is perfect today. The view from the Moonlight Bridge is quite a sight to see, you know. Here goes. Hold on tight.
We rode around the city, then returned to the dorm.
All right. It looks like everyone's here now.
Well, it's been a week. What's our plan? You okay, Fuka?
You're just so calm, Yukari-chan.
I mean, panicking's not gonna solve anything. Besides, it's been such a drag around here all week, and no one will go to Tartarus.
You're absolutely right. We humans are quite resilient. With enough time, we can adapt to any situation. So, how about it, everyone? It's time we discuss this.
Have
You made up your mind, Sonata-san?
No, but I don't plan on running away.
So you're going to fight Nyx?
I don't know. I mean, it supposedly can't be defeated. What about you? What are your thoughts on it?
Honestly, this is the first time I've ever really contemplated my own death. In any case, we have to choose one way or the other. I obviously don't want to suffer, but that means we'd have to take a life. Not to mention, we die no matter what we do.
Then, do we all agree that we don't want to hurt Ryoji-kun?
I agree.
Is that how you feel?
Me?
That's fair. I mean, it's not exactly normal to pick how you're gonna die. What about you, Junpei? Have you decided?
Nah.
What's the matter? Scared?
What the hell is wrong with you? You think this is a joke?
Junpei,
It's death we're talking about here. Of course I'm scared. And here you all are, just chatting it up like it's a goddamn picnic. Can't you see? We're all gonna die.
Then what do you think we should do? Do you want to kill him?
There's nothing I can do. He's the only one who can kill him. Hey. This whole thing is your fault. You had that thing inside you and didn't even know it. You raised it, damn it! If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be special, right? Then do something about it.
Stop it, Junpei. It's not his fault. And the only reason we even have a choice is because he carried it.
God damn it, I know! It's just, it doesn't matter how many times I tell myself. I know this doesn't fix anything. It scares the hell out of me.
I know how you feel, Junpei-kun.
We're all scared. I'm scared too.
Me too. I've never felt so cornered in my life. I can't stop shaking.
Same here. We're all in the same boat. And hey, I'm sorry for teasing you earlier. I just don't want to forget everything. I've learned so much since coming here.
Yucatan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you like that.
I don't think any of us can blame you right now, Junpei. So don't worry about it. Right?
I'm sorry. I knew the truth deep down, but still, sorry for being a dick.
All right. Let's put a pause on any unnecessary gatherings for now. Ryoji said he'll be back on New Year's Eve. Let's just try to go about our lives until then. We have some time, so let's consider our options while we still can.
Great. Koromaru is always so calm and collected. Dogged, really. Who's at that shrine all by himself? I want to be more like Koromaru. I don't want to be stuck in the past anymore. Aragaki-san let me live for a reason.
Hey, so...
Don't worry about what Junpei said earlier, okay? You know, all that stuff about how Ryoji-kun was inside you. No one thinks it's your fault. You're still you, the same person as you've always been. I had considered the possibility that we could simply stop Ryoji from initiating the fall. It appears that isn't a possibility after all. If we kill him, we'll lose our memories and still be unable to prevent it. Sorry about earlier, man. I know you've been helping me out all this time. But you know that sinking feeling when you hit a dead end? Yeah, it sucks. I wonder if Ryoji-kun will come back for New Year's Eve. What is he doing now? Is he crying like before? What would he do at a time like this? He'd probably fight the end of the world with all he had. Yeah, that's what he would do. What's everyone's status? No Aegis. And we won't have Aegis for a while. Yeah, let's go. Good news is Aegis is one of our higher leveled, so it's not like she's gonna fall behind too much by not being able to make it.
Marvelous. I'm looking for.
Requests.
Here are my requests. Wonderful.
Seems you completed a request. Thank you for watering the flowers that were on the verge of withering.
Think of it.
I've heard that plants grow so long as one continues to water them. Admirable, isn't it? Plants aren't only the only ones capable of such a thing. Maybe I'll try this watering process on myself as well. There's a part of me I'd like to cultivate. Next time you see me, maybe I'll have grown a little in some way. Damn, we're down to 3 requests. We've completed almost every one we've gotten so far.
Do you have any siblings? I myself have a useless younger brother. Perhaps I shall introduce you to him one day.
Theo mentioned? He got roasted, but Theo mentioned? Theo real? Poor Theo isn't even in the game and is still catching strays. That's crazy. Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it for us for tonight. I think what's going to happen is we will stream this on Wednesday. And we will complete the rest of this month, get to the New Year's Eve decision. Maybe a little bit past it. And then this weekend, either Friday or Saturday, whichever one we don't do Big Run on, we will have the finale of Persona 3 Reload. So I'm quite looking forward to that. This was a short stream, but I'm very tired today. And I feel like this is a good spot for us to leave it off, to have two streams, because we have kind of a weird amount of time left where it's like, it's not quite like, 2 full streams if I like keep going for like a long stream tonight, but it's then not like a, 1 normal stream. So, we're going to call it a little early here, also because my voice is starting to get a little sore, and we did do a 6-hour stream last night, which is not a night we normally stream on. So I'm going to look for somebody for us to raid. Let me see who we have that is live. Boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Both of the tabs that I had open, both have already rated out, so, oops. Seahorse Rim Gym. Yeah, those were the 3 I was looking at. Manic. Is Manic doing P3 or is Manic doing something else? Where are they? They're doing Like a Dragon. Jojo? Siwa? Or let's see. They're gonna go for a little while, so I'm going for 3.5. I have no idea how long they usually go for. We collabed with Aqua and some new friends last week, and I see that one of them is live right now. So what if we raid somewhere we've never gone before? and go raid Miss Kitty Core, who we played Splatoon with last week. So I hope you all have a great night. I appreciate everybody so much for hanging out. For a little bit of a shorter stream, but a good one nonetheless. I will see you all on Wednesday for the calm before the storm, I suppose. The final P3 stream before the finale. And then this weekend for both Big Run and for the end of Persona 3 Reload. We have been here for a while, I'll tell you that much. Is it our most streamed game this year yet? No, it's third still. Behind Pokemon, and I didn't think we streamed that much Zelda. Good to know. Well, have a good night, everybody. I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Send Miss Kitty Core a lot of love. Bye-bye.